Everybody and welcome to Geeksvana. My name is Sean. Today we're going to be talking about some pretty exciting news which is coming kind of out of the UK CAA. As you know, here at Geeksvana we're watching everything across UK drones to bring you the very latest information, and as regular viewers will also know, we've been chatting a little bit recently, especially actually in our last live show, about the very hard deadline that's coming up for UK drones at the end of this year. And that is the end of the transitional period, which basically means that what that would have happened a couple of years ago, we would have had things like class mark drones, so C1, C2 label drones, etc., available to be used in the UK. Of course, we have them here in the UK, we just can't use the benefits right now. Well, it appears we are going to get them, or at least it certainly appears the CAA are planning for that to happen. How do we know? Well, a quite unusual source for this particular story, which is actually LinkedIn Jobs. A job listing for a very specialist manager has appeared on LinkedIn from the UK CAA, and in the description of that, they are pretty clear in terms of what their plans are. So if this happens, it could be big. Let's go across to the page and have a quick look at that particular job listing right now, shall we? So here is the page. As you can see at the top here, we have Market Surveillance Authority MSA Manager, and this is listed by the UK Civil Aviation Authority. So as you would expect, you get the usual bits and pieces here, like the salary up to 85,000, depending on experience, a permanent full-time role. And as we say here, it basically states that obviously they are the UK's aviation and aerospace regulator, recognised as a world leader in its field. And then they talk about the role: remotely piloted aircraft systems, RPAS, in the open category, i.e. low risk flying with RPAS that weighs less than 25 kilograms, will be subject to product standards from the 1st of January 2026. The framework for open category product standards is referred to as class marking and is based on retained EU law. So right there, straight away, we have confirmation in a couple of lines, basically, that we're going to see class marked C-label drones here in the UK very soon, but also, of course, that it's going to be based on the retained EU law. So they are essentially flipping that switch back to actually give us the same class markings as were taken away, basically. The Civil Aviation Authority has been appointed by the Department for Transport to take the lead of the role of Market Surveillance Authority. So that in itself is news which we will pick into at a future time, which will be responsible for overseeing conformity assessment and compliance with the product standards. The MSA function will carry out the activities of ensuring required standards for RPAS are met by manufacturers and other economic partners, e.g. importers and distributors, and intervening when there is non-compliance. This will involve executing the surveillance and control of products on entering the UK market under, again, EU 2019-945, so the adopted regulations there. In addition, the MSA function is responsible for implementing and overseeing the conformity assessment framework in the UK, ensuring manufacturers demonstrate compliance. Now, because that all sounds a little bit scary, and how is that all going to happen, etc. But essentially, because this is actually happening in terms of the existing framework, which is actually already within UK law, it just isn't switched on. The DFT removed a few things and changed a couple of things so class markings wouldn't come in. But all of the legislation is actually still there. It just needs implementing. And one of the very big steps of that is a Market Surveillance Authority. As we're talking about this job, we may as well just touch on things like the minimum essential experience for the role is experience as a market surveillance manager and this product surveillance. So they're looking to get this as a project up and running. They clearly don't want to have any lag. Very much the type of role, the type of minimum essential requirements for the role speak to somebody that actually knows what they're doing on this particular type of role here. It's interesting actually, because this is of course a role that doesn't necessarily require the person to have specific aviation experience. It really would be much more handy if that person has already done this type of job with another type of product. So again, what does that mean for UK drone flyers? What this means is that it is clear evidence that the UK Civil Aviation Authority are planning to allow us to use, and essentially to end the transitional period and use class mark drones from the end of this year, so from the 1st of January 2026. There's going to be obviously a flurry of announcements, a flurry of activity. This actually supports a lot of the work that's happening, technically commercial side of things, and in the specific category, because there are all sorts of things like perhaps losing overflight, that type of thing, where having ability to use C1 and C2 drones much closer to people in the open category, because of course there is very, very low risk, would be a very useful thing. This, along with things like the PDRA system becoming a declarative process, actually to me points to the fact that the UK CAA and the UK government are starting to see drones as certainly the smaller drones, sub 7 kilogram, sub 25 kilogram, as a safe option here in the UK, and something which needs, frankly, less oversight and less regulation, because working C labels, working class markings will open up so much more fun, so much more practical use, commercial use, and even things like blue light use for these drones. So it is very exciting. This really is one of those steps that, should this go through, should they find the right person, should they be able to implement a market surveillance authority on behalf of the UK, it's going to be great news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you excited about this? What are your questions? And if you have any, we can do a little Q&A based on this particular thing, as it's something that's coming up again, basically. So I look forward to having to redo all of our UK drone rule videos if this kind of thing is what's going to happen. Keep an eye out on the channel for more news on this particular topic and anything else UK drone wise. And remember, we will bring you updates to this essential story for the UK drone world as and when we get them. Sean out.